Well, let me make another video. I tried to share a video I made for my indirect light page about my work, uh, my experiences with my splenic awareness and work and working nights and everything. But it's a private page, and I couldn't get it to show up in the splenic page. So anyway, somebody was asking about the work that we do, that we have done, and so I thought I would share a little bit about my work. Like I said, I'm a 6'2" splenic projector, indirect light, cross of Dominion. And the thing that I found interesting when I first became aware of human design back in 2005 is when I really started getting into it. But in 1999, I think it was, I did my first chart. And it was like, whoa, this is like, maybe I'll wait. I wasn't ready to get into human design, because I saw it was pretty deep, saw it was pretty complex. But so anyway, this splenic awareness, I've been aware of it for 50 years. Originally, I just thought that it was intuition. I just kind of knew when something was right for me or when it wasn't right for me. And that early 6'2" phase, the trial and error, I found out pretty quick that it was fairly accurate. When I didn't follow that intuition, what I thought was intuition at that time, stuff just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. When I did follow it, things seemed to kind of just flow better, flow more easy. So being indirect light, I had a hard time dealing with day shift. Being, in school, we all had to deal with day shift. But when I finally graduated, the first job that I had was a landscape architect, which paid pretty well, but it was downtown. It was, I had to be there at 8 in the morning. It was in a high-rise building downtown Chicago. It lasted about 3 weeks. I just couldn't handle being, one, day shift, two, being stuck up in an office building like that. I think it was like 35 floors up. And I did have a window, but all I could see was the building across the street. So, yeah, lasted about 3 weeks. So I went through a series of jobs, all pretty much day shift jobs, 4 or 5 of them, that just I couldn't handle. It was just, just couldn't handle. And I finally got a job selling cash registers out in the suburbs of Chicago, in the area called the Chain of Lakes. And I'm sitting there watching a couple of guys. I live right on a riverbank out here, and my window looks over the river, and there's 2 guys down there getting ready to cross with a big cooler. Anyway, it's my little ADD, never mind. So the cash register sales job, I liked it because I could start anytime I wanted to, and I'd usually start like 11 o'clock to 12, and I'd hit a few bars and check to see if they need any paper or ink for their for their cash registers, and then I'd take off and I'd hang out at the beach all day. So I loved that kind of job, except for I didn't sell any cash registers, so it only lasted about 3 months. So I was getting, I had turned 18, it was in 1965, and so I wouldn't get drafted. I wound up deciding that I was going to go into the Air Force. 4 years versus 2 being drafted and having to kill people and such, So anyway, my dad was an emotional projector, best I could tell. He was born like 1920, and the records weren't really good. But my dad was an engineer on the railroad, and he saw that I kind of liked nights, and I didn't put up with much shit from anybody. So he invited me to hire out on the railroad. 1 month before I was getting ready to go into the Air Force, and he kind of talked me into it. He had some carrots. He said, he was in the Army World War II, and his brother was in the Air Corps at the time. I think it was during the Korean War, and he was telling me the big difference between the Air Force and the Army. And also, I had a hot rod car that he told me that if you go in the Air Force, I'll pay it off, and you can pay me in time when you get out. So it was like, those little carrots right there. I got big splenic hits. Yeah. So I hired out as a fireman, which is what you do. It's an apprentice engineer. And the first job that I had, that I went to, started at midnight, and we worked about 2 or 3 hours. And then we got to hang out and take a 2-hour nap waiting for Montgomery Wards to open up to deliver cars to them. And then we finished off. I worked about, 6.5 hours. Got a 2-hour nap. And it was like, hell yeah, this'll work, this'll work. So yeah, I went into the Air Force. 3.5 years out in West Texas, and part of the indirect light thing, I just enjoyed nights. I enjoyed being out when the energy was low, especially in Chicago. Oh my God, to be in a city, 3+ million people, whatever it was, and they're all sleeping. The majority of them are sleeping. Just such an interesting deal. So when I was in the Air Force, I wound up working nights because I was out in West Texas, and flat ass hot during the summertime, working on the flight line. I was an aircraft mechanic, crew chief. So I worked nights there too, which really solidified my love of nights. I never was a morning person. I just always had such a hard time getting up, dealing with it, But so anyway, for 28 years, I wound up being a locomotive engineer. And the thing that was very, very cool about the job was, being the engineer, I was actually in charge of handling that train. And really nobody could tell me what and how to handle that train. It was like, I was in charge of that. I kind of loved that part of it. I was able to work any shift that I wanted. I worked nights most of the time. I was able to lay off like 2 hours before I would have to go to work. I would be able to lay off, take a day off. So it gave me quite a bit of freedom in what jobs I could hold, how long some jobs work 5 hours, got paid for 8. Some jobs early on were like 16 hours, where you can make big money, but holy cow, for a projector, those were a little bit hard to do. 16 hours, man, holy shit. And with that, I also followed the indirect light way of eating. It just came naturally to me. All of this stuff came naturally to me, and I do believe by following my splenic authority for so far back, that following your S and A, your strategy and your authority, once you kind of get a handle on that, things just seem to line up. As long as you can keep the mind from, at least in my situation, open head, defined ajna, defined throat. As long, it just seems, looking back, it just seems that the more that I was able to make decisions following that splenic hit, things just kind of came. They just kind of flowed, like life came to me, and I made decisions accordingly as it came. I also, innocence in the deal. Let me take you over to my other chair. And with that, I really had no agenda. I had no wanting and needing and trying and that kind of stuff. So with that, let me see if this will sit up here. Isn't it fun? Making videos. Let's sit here without falling down. I don't think it will. Anyway, go back over here. But with that, I've had a pretty good life. I wound up being able to retire from the railroad at age 46, and it just all happened. It just all fell together. So, following that splenic awareness, man. If you can do it. If you can do it. Where did I have this thing? I don't remember where in the hell I had this thing. Life becomes so much more easy. Stuff just kind of falls together. It just happens. So, anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to share with y'all in this splenic room. So I'll play it back and see what it looks like. I ain't got the balls to do live videos. So anyway, later.